to the microphone. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry I was a little bit late tonight. I just left my son's Little League playoff game. In the fourth inning, they had a one-run lead, and my son was coming up to bat in a couple of batters, so I feel sorry for me. I know it was tough to leave, but this is very, very important that we keep having these type of town hall meetings. We're try to have 4 or 5 a year to keep you informed and give you an opportunity outside of the more formal city council meeting process and all the boards and commissions we have. People have been kind of puzzled, and we were, frankly, at first, the council and I were puzzled that we can't engage with the citizenry at a council meeting because of the rules. You can come and make comments, but we can't go back and forth with question and answers. That's why we want to have town halls, is because you can do that here. The rules are relaxed. All we ask is you be polite, and that's it. So before we start, I'd like to take a moment to thank the law enforcement officers here and all around the nation because this week, that protect our community, because this week is the start of National Police Week. And I ask that you thank all your local officers. Thank you. My name is J. Max Davis. I'm the mayor of Brookhaven. And seated to my left, we have Marie Garrett, city manager, Chief Gary Andura, chief of police, Chief Ron Freeman, deputy chief of police, Councilmember Jim Iyer from the District 2 here in National Park, Councilmember Bates Madison from District 3, and Councilmember Joe Gebbia from District 4. Councilwoman Rebecca Chase Williams couldn't be here tonight. She is moving her, I guess she's a freshman or sophomore in college at Texas Tech, or TCU, moving her from her dorm to an apartment, I believe. So she expressed her regrets that she couldn't be here, but she'll be back in town tomorrow for the council meeting. We've been a city now for about 120 days, and we've done lots of things. It's been a lot of work, a little bit more than a lot of us planned on, I think, but it's not drudgery. At least in my opinion, and I know the other folks, I speak for them, it's exciting that we have so much to do because there's so much good that we can do. And I know you've seen some of the street crews out there repairing some of the potholes and the sidewalks and things of that nature, clearing some of the right-of-ways. And that's the Public Works Department. But also our Community Development Department has been up and running. We have, and I've got the numbers here somewhere, we have accepted or processed, I think, 326 permits, is that correct? Is that on yours? There it is. We've issued 226 building permits and conducted 326 building site inspections. And our Public Works Department, and forgive me if I'm looking down here, but these are facts and figures. I want to make sure I get them right. Our Public Works Department has completed more than 200 work orders, including repairing potholes, pavement, and right-of-ways, and they repaired sidewalks in front of schools, and they're going to do more sidewalk repair and replacement in front of the schools this summer. So Ashford Park and Montgomery, DeKalb Path Academy, Woodward Elementary and Montclair, Cross Keys High School will all have some more sidewalk done this summer where the kids are out. We passed our first budget. It's a sort of a placeholder. We'll readjust the budget this summer once we get the tax digest from DeKalb County, and that's when we'll set our millage rate. We open our municipal court, and Judge Laura Stevenson is here. If you would stand, Laura. She's our very good judge. She's our chief judge of our municipal court. And I think we've had 5 court dates so far. And we have trials coming up soon in July. So you go down to the court and see how it works. I think it's an efficient model and it's a fair model, which is what's very important to me. We hired a city clerk. Our city clerk, Susan Hyde, is here. Where's Susan? There she is. Stand, Susan. She is not only our city clerk, but she's also kind of being the chief administrator for our court system as well. She's got a dual role there, so we're getting 2 for 1 with Susan. So y'all are getting a deal. We're all getting a deal on that. We have a finance director. Miss Bonnie Klein is here. All right. She is new since our last town hall meeting, so I want to make sure I recognize her. Megan Matucci is here, and she's our communications director. Megan is doing a great job. I know y'all have been seeing me on the news and some of our council members on the news a lot more lately. It's not because we're news hounds, we got to be on the news, but that's Megan. I'll come into the city hall one day, you got an interview at 3 o'clock, and who knows what it's going to be about, but she'll have us, she's promoting Brookhaven through the news, and she's doing a great job, so we thank her. And we have her new assistant helper, also in communications, and I've forgotten her name because she's brand Dana. Today's her first day. We did interview. Dana, what's your last name?
Johnson.
Dana Johnson. So Dana and Megan are, power wonder twins there. We have, I've made a lot of appointments, and the city council has vetted a lot of these appointments and have suggested names to me as well, so we've done a collaboration when it comes to all our boards and commissions. We've appointed a development authority, we've appointed a planning commission, which is the advisory board that recommends what kind of development will be coming to Brookhaven. We have a zoning board of appeals, we have an alcohol license review board, we have, what else do we have? Construction Board of Appeals is coming up soon as well. There's one more I thought. Development Authority, yeah.
Planning Commission.
We did the Planning Commission, Planning, ZBA, Development, Alcohol License Board, and more to come in the next few weeks. But those are all citizen volunteers. So I want everybody to keep that in mind when you're attending some of these Planning Commission meetings or these ZBA hearings. These folks aren't getting paid. They agreed to serve. Some of them had to talk into it a little bit, but most folks are happy to serve. And they are doing the best that they can, and this is new for all of us. So please understand when you're going before those meetings, if you think things aren't going the way you might want them to be or expect, just take that into account. That they're all citizen volunteers that live right here in Brookhaven. They're doing the best they can. They're all very talented people. I'm very proud of our boards. We are also looking for, we're kind of moving down the path pretty well of finding a city hall and our police department, locating it here in Brookhaven. So hopefully we'll have some news on that in the next few weeks about where we'll be located, but we definitely are, before the end of this year, going to be in the city of Brookhaven with our city hall and our police department. So that's a fact. Also, we have, anything else? We have anything else I'm forgetting, folks? I think that's it. Now, she's my favorite person at City Hall, without a doubt. She's my rock. No. Marie Garrett is our city manager, and she comes to us with long experience in the metro area, from Johns Creek and Roswell, or not Roswell, Canton, and some other areas. She is doing a whiz-bang job. She knows just about everything you can know about municipal government and how to do it the right way and how to be efficient. She's always got a mind towards making things more efficient, making things cost less. She's saving us money right and left. And I'm so proud that she's serving with us and hope she stays on for a lot longer. It's Marie Garrett, our city manager, so she's going to talk to you for just a minute.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. That was very kind of you, and I appreciate the compliments. And I think it needs to be said, and I appreciate I'm your favorite person at City Hall, but my favorite people are all the department heads and their staff. They are just doing a tremendous job, and without them, a team is filled with lots of people, and it's just not one person. So I do appreciate the efforts of all the department heads, and I appreciate, Mayor, that you introduced each one of them, because I had planned to do that, and I'm so glad that you did recognize them. One new employee that was hired to report in March the 25th was her first day. Susan Cannon, our Community Development Director. If you'll stand, Susan. She is just doing a terrific job and carrying a lot of weight in moving the Community Development Department along, because not only does it include planning, land disturbance, building inspection, so it's a whole host of activities. So she is juggling quite a few balls in the air and doing a tremendous job. She and I probably are neck and neck with a number of years of experience. We both have over 30 years experience in local government and service, so she comes with a tremendous amount of knowledge and hands-on experience. So the city of Brookhaven is very fortunate. Now on to why you all are here, and we're really looking forward to a lot of questions from you all, because we just have a lot of good things to tell you and to share with you. But it is my honor to introduce to you our newest employee, aside from Dana, who today is her first day, is our Chief of Police. And one of the things that is so exciting about a startup city, and they don't happen often in the state of Georgia, even though right here in this metro cluster, we've had a number of them, but it took over 30 years for the city of Sandy Springs to get incorporated, and they certainly opened the door and made the path easier for other cities to follow: Milton, Johns Creek, certainly Brookhaven and Dunwoody. And with that, you get a lot of firsts and you get a lot of wows, and it's very exciting. Every day, you're building the city and you're building all the components, because you're not just building it for today, you're building it for the long term, for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So all of the department heads here are thinking about what I do today, how does that impact the future? And my job as the city manager is to implement the policies that the mayor and council adopt. And then the staff helps me implement those policies. So every time the council makes a motion to approve an item, it's a first. It's a first every single time. And for a city manager or a planning director or any one of these department heads here, you always think, gosh, if I had the chance to create a new city or start a new department, what would I do? Well, every one of us have a blank canvas, and we have the support of the mayor and council as we work towards implementing their vision, your vision, and their policies. So with that said, I want to talk with you about our police department and what we've done, and just to show you the interest nationwide in the city of Brookhaven. When we recruited for police chief, we were able to receive 98 applications, resumes, for the position of chief of police. We were honored by that because there was so much interest, and we were overwhelmed by the amount of review and responsibility on making sure that we selected the right candidate for the position. And out of those 98, we culled the list down to 10, the top 10 that we interviewed. Every one of those 10 were interviewed, and from there, the selection was made. And just to give you a basic understanding, and I'm sure many of you know the charter inside and out because so many of you were advocates of the creation of Brookhaven and have been following the progress that the city's made in just a little over 100 days. But the city charter leaves the responsibility and places the responsibility of hiring the police chief on the shoulders of the city manager. Different from where the mayor appoints a city attorney or the city manager and the finance director, and of course it has to be confirmed by the council. But in this case, the charter is very clear and very specific, and it states that that responsibility of hiring the police chief rests with the city manager. Now, keep in mind that this is a brand new city. Everything's a first for this city, and this position of police chief is extremely important because this is the gentleman that will bring order and safety to the community and will be able to provide a level of service so that when you call in the case of an emergency, you can count on the predictability that they will show up, and they'll show up early and certainly on time. But because of the importance of the position, and I want to thank the council for this because it did take a lot of their time, I had every one of them interview our final choice because I thought it was very important that they heard what I was hearing in the couple of interviews that I had with Chief Gary Andura. And I appreciate that, and I want to thank them publicly for taking the time. This is not normal. This is not the normal course of business with other cities. Now, if we were a city of 100 years old, that selection would have been made in the house of the city manager, and then it would have been reported to the mayor and council. But I'm stating all of this to illustrate to you how engaged your mayor and council are. It's not always business as usual at City Hall, and they're told about things later. They are absolutely engaged in the process, and as a manager, I do appreciate the time because it does take a lot of time on their part, away from their private life and their business, to come in and hear me one more time saying, you just got to meet this guy. So thank you all for doing that. After interviewing 10 candidates, we did select Chief Gary Andura, and I want to just give you a little bit of background of his credentials and his level of experience and how fortunate we are to have him. He comes with 38 years experience in law enforcement. So Chief, you have a few more years than Susan and myself. So you beat us there. He recently came from the city of Hiram, where he was the police chief, and prior to that, he was the police chief in the city of College Park, whereby he managed a budget of over $12 million and supervised and managed 160 employees. He started his law enforcement career with the city of Lake Forest, Illinois, and spent over 24 years there. Graduated from the FBI Academy, further graduated from Roosevelt University in Chicago with his master's degree, and his bachelor's degree is in criminal justice from the University of Illinois. After selecting him, he immediately went to work to bring on his command staff, and the position he hired next after him, of course, and the most important position in his department is his deputy chief of police, and that is Ron Freeman. And Ron also comes with a multitude of experience and years on the ground in law enforcement. He has 26 years experience in law enforcement. He spent his entire career in Forsyth County Sheriff's Department. Most recently, he was serving as the commander for Forsyth County's South Precinct. He also has worked in the areas of training, investigations, professional standards and patrol, and he too is a graduate of the FBI Academy. Currently, he serves as president of the Georgia chapter of the FBI National Academy Associates. We have such a strong team, and both of them are working tirelessly every day to hire the right people. I was in a meeting with both of them today earlier, and I've said this to the mayor recently, that their department is multiplying by the hour. We're excited about building this police department. We're excited about getting people out on the street later in the summer so that you will be able to identify your officers who are protecting you, not only you personally and your families, but also your property, so that this can always be a safe place, no matter whether it's day, afternoon, or night. And with that, I will turn the podium over now to Chief Gary Gandura. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, everyone else, for being here. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what we've been doing the past, actually 4 weeks since we started. Last month, we announced we were hiring about 50 plus officers. We're in the process of that. So far, we've received, I think today the final count was about 1,000 applications and resumes. So that's a lot of vetting that we're having to do. Right now, we're in the process of hiring our command staff, which we figure is going to snowball into hiring great officers and things like that. I started off with Ron Freeman as a city manager, just mentioned. I didn't know Ron from Adam when we first hired him, but he was actually highly recommended by a number of other chiefs. To me, an important part of the job is networking with other law enforcement agencies and other chiefs. Ron came highly recommended. We vetted Ron, and Ron is our deputy chief. I'd also like to introduce one of our lieutenants that we hired, Brandon Burley. He actually started about 2 weeks ago, I believe, and he was also hired as our public information officer to handle police matters that Megan might not be involved with, or that Megan might not want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to handle. So Brandon is actually going to be doing a lot of our neighborhood watch group activities and things like that, and community activities. So we're looking forward to working with Brandon also. During the next couple of weeks, we actually have a new sergeant starting tomorrow. As I mentioned, the command staff, we have, we'll probably end up hiring probably about 9 sergeants and lieutenants within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And from that, we're going to be picking officers out of all the resumes and applications that we've been receiving. And that's kind of a neat thing for the city of Brookhaven, because what it allows us to do is pick the top candidates, and we're getting a lot of great experience, a lot of top candidates, and we're really reviewing their backgrounds and everything else to make sure we get the most qualified. In case you don't know, the process actually is we get the resumes, we go through the resumes and pick the best out of the best that we could determine. We call them in for interviews. After that, they receive a post-job offer where we do a complete background check on them. We visit neighborhoods, we visit neighbors, we visit their previous employers. For the officers, we're going to end up doing a polygraph test, lie detector test. They have to go through physical exam and drug testing. So it's a pretty extensive vetting process, but we're going to make sure we have the best officers that are available and to serve you. That's the other thing I want to make sure everyone realizes is we're actually part of the city of Brookhaven, and we report to the citizens of Brookhaven also. You know, I answer to the city manager, and we work through the government, but we're actually here as a resource to all of you, and we're looking for cooperation and help from all of you too to make Brookhaven a safer and better place to live. Part of the process also that we wanted to do was to make sure that we hire employees and officers, and actually our administrative assistant is bilingual. What we're trying to do is is hired to make up the makeup of the city so that we can communicate with all the residents in an effective manner and make sure that we provide all the service that we possibly could. That's about all with the personnel issues that are going on right now. The next part of the job that's been hectic for the last couple of weeks is actually the equipment that we need to order. Actually, before I started, I received a call. I was still in Hiram, and there was a deadline for police cars. There's certain dates that are actually made up for when they stop production. So we actually had to hire or order some of the cars before production date was cut off. So we did that actually before I started working. So that's in order. We had to order guns. A lot of people don't realize, but even such small things as patches for uniforms. Actually, we had a meeting today where we had to discuss what type of patches and things like that are going to go on the uniforms. Because we want something to be for the residents to be proud of and to show pride. So the city is actually working out a patch design. Ours might be a little bit different just because we've got to get uniforms ordered and in place pretty soon. We're still looking at starting up the police department sometime late summer. We're hoping to get all the equipment in. We're trying to use resources to help the city out so that it doesn't financially strap the city. Some of them it is bulletproof vests. We ordered, all the officers are required to wear bulletproof vests throughout the country. The federal government actually has a vest program, so we applied for that. We had to take a couple extra steps because we weren't recognized as a police department yet, so we had to submit all kinds of paperwork just to get us involved with the federal government and recognized as a police department. Other things we're ordering now are radios. We got to figure out who's going to be dispatching for us. All kinds of things like that. Guns, we ordered guns already. Guns came in. Ammunition, all the officers are going to have to qualify with whatever they carry, which will all be standardized. As I mentioned, we're trying to hire officers, just like our civilian personnel, to make sure that they form the makeup of the city and can communicate good with the city. And go along with that, we're also working closely with DeKalb County. We had last month, I think we had 2 meetings. Actually, the last one was last week. Councilman Iyer was there. We had a meeting at Drew Valley. There were some burglaries going on, and I think there were 6 or 8 burglaries in about a 3 or 4 week period. So we got together with DeKalb County, and we're still cooperating with them. Major Jim Conroy from North Precinct in DeKalb County has been extremely helpful with us. He's been supplying us with information, data. What we're trying to do is set up, with the information he's given us, basic zone structure. And one of our priorities is setting up the zones in the city of Brookhaven so that we have a good response time to all the residents and that we have good visibility with all the residents. So I think that's important in policing and to keep bad people out of town that we don't want in town. So we're working with DeKalb County on that. DeKalb County also, whenever we receive problems, we want to reiterate to everybody, DeKalb County is still holding all your police services until we take over, toward the end of summer. So if there are problems, you still need to go through that route. As soon as we take over, we'll have some kind of special program or whatever when we actually take over from DeKalb County. But in the meantime, they are doing and providing, I think, excellent services. With the Drew Valley burglaries, they actually made numerous arrests. It's just unfortunate usually when you arrest one group of people involved in burglaries, the burglaries will stop. Unfortunately, I think there were 2 or 3 groups, so they're still working on some of that. I think they had one the other day, but other than that, most of them have been cleared up and they recovered some property. Talked about the Drew Valley. The Drew Valley meetings that we did have actually expanded now. We're receiving calls and requests from other residents. One was on Osborne. She's actually going from neighbor's house to neighbor's house with flyers. She's setting up a neighborhood watch. Lieutenant Gurley is actually going to be involved with coordinating that. I'll come to the first one, or Deputy Chief Ron Freeman will come to him also. We like to get the community support and cooperation and all that to get all these groups going. And we look forward to working with them. Some of the other programs that we're actually planning on doing, which I was familiar with and which I provided in the past, was if you go on vacation, we plan on doing vacation house watches. So when we get fully operational You could call up or stop in. Usually we like you stopping in with some form of ID, and we'll have officers check your house for you periodically when you're out of town. Other things that we like doing is setting up a Citizens Police Academy. Those went over very well in previous places where I worked. We look forward to setting that up because to me that lets you realize what the police officers are going through, actually from their initial hire to training to how things operate. Citizens Police Academy will allow you to go to learn how lasers and radars work. We'll let you ride along with an officer. I'll give you a tour of the police department, show you the criminal justice system, investigations, how to process crime scenes, even take you to a range if there's one available when we go through that. Part of our outreach too, in working with these neighborhood watches, is we're actually looking and we're going to seek your help in finding locations. As I mentioned, our priorities are basically response times and visibility. We want the officers, we're going to assign the officers to the same areas, so hopefully you get to know them and you'll get to know their names, and the officers will be more accountable to the areas that they're in. But in order to do that, we also are looking for your help in if there's certain areas, because we can't be every place all the time. So what we're doing is looking for mini precincts. So if there's a problem area in the city, a lot of departments I used to work with, actually some of the businesses, some of the apartment complexes or whatever, used to provide a space where we could actually put up Brookhaven Police Precinct or whatever, and we could have an officer there for 2 hours a day, you know, so many days a week or whatever, and they could be there as a resource to the community or that neighborhood to answer questions, take reports, or listen to concerns that you might have. And with that, you know, the main thing I'm trying to stress is our department depends on partnerships with you. We can't do it ourselves. You know, every police chief or every police department would like a policeman on every corner, but that's just unrealistic. So we're counting on your eyes and ears to help us out. I think that's about all I have, and turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. They're working hard over there. I was telling some folks the other day that you go back to City Hall, the very back of the building, you'll see these guys interviewing folks. They got their jackets off, coffee at the table, sleeves rolled up, just grinding it out, interviewing folks over and over and over again. Brandon's back there vetting people. So they're doing a thorough job and they're working very hard. They're not just clocking in and clowning around, I'm telling you. They're really doing a good job. Just some housekeeping things here. Please, if you haven't already, and there'll be a sign-up sheet here, please sign up for our email newsletter. We have some right up here at this chair, right next to Megan. It's the best way to keep informed. If you notice, we sent a mailer out to y'all about a month ago. We'd like not to have to do that, but we had a relatively small number of people getting our emails and our newsletters. We just felt we had to. We had something like 1,600 people only, and there's 50,000 people in Brookhaven. So until we get our email list built up, we're going to have to keep mailing these things out every few months. So if you get on that email newsletter list, it'll really help us save some money and help us get communicating with you more regularly and more quickly. So please remember to do that. Also, I'd like to encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm not a big Facebook or Twitter guy, but some folks are. We have accounts for that, so please follow us. If you get into that stuff, please do. Now I'd like to open up the floor for questions. All this stuff's out of the way. All our yammering's done. And y'all can ask us the questions you have. Anybody have any questions about anything, please fill out one of these forms, if you can, to give your name and address in your neighborhood, and come up to the microphone and ask your questions of me or anybody here on the stage or staff that we have present. We have all the representatives of all the community, all the departments in the city, so they should be able to answer your questions pretty well. So if you please fill out
Karen first.
Who we have first?
Karen.
Karen, is there a Karen?
Oh, you have to, I didn't know you could fill
Oh,
it.
you can fill it right. Karen and
What's Karen's last name?
Whitehead.
Karen Whitehead. Come on, Karen.
So up there.
Come up to the microphone. Yes, ma'am. You gotta come up here.
I wrote my question out.
Well, you can read it if you'd like. Bring it up with you.
Guess what my question is?
It's about parks, I bet.
It is.
That's all right.
So it's a simple question. Actually, it's two questions. The first one is timeline for hiring a parks director,
Right.
maybe. second is timeline for RFPs for master plan.
I'm gonna
That's
let-
my question.
I'm gonna let Marie, we've been working on all that, so I'm gonna let Marie answer.
I'm on the board of the Murphy County Park Conservancy.
She is on the ball too, Marie, so don't mess up.
Well, I'll give the only answer I know, and that's the right one. Okay. We plan to, early fall, begin recruiting. It could even be late summer, to begin recruiting for a Parks and Recreation Director. Prior to that, however, our Community Development Director, Susan Cannon, will be soliciting for an RFP for a comprehensive plan. In addition to that comprehensive plan will be a transportation plan as well as the Parks and Recreation plan. Those plans eventually will merge and converge with the completion of the comprehensive plan and will be a chapter each in that comprehensive plan. The completion of the Parks and Rec plan should probably be sometime December or January. And we may be bridging 2 budget years to do that, but that is the plan. But we do want to have the Parks and Rec Director on, during the height of the planning of the Parks and Rec plan. So beginning very late summer and certainly into the early fall.
Ronald Haney
Does
and,
that answer your question? Do you still have any?
No, that's fine.
Got it?
I have more, but I'll wait.
Okay, all right. She can circle back, all right. Who's next?
Ronald Haney and Jim Mallory.
Ronald Haney and Jim Mallory. Dual question or just one? All right.
No, I'm just texting it. My name is Ron Henny, I'm 2238 Matthew Street, Northeast, and I have some comments and questions.
Okay.
Basically, there's a development going to, I assume what I hear is going to take place on North Druid Hills Road. It's a church property. I'm only 14 feet from that property, and I'm downhill. And I haven't heard a great deal from the city about the property. They had posted a date on my property around May 1st for the first meeting and May 28th for the second. Now, my understanding is they're going to have the commissioners vote on July 3rd, which is over the July 4th holiday.
I'm very familiar with this property, and we have Susan Cannon here, who's our Community Development Director, who can give you some of the guidelines for what's going on with that process. The schedule for the meetings were set way back, so the July, I've heard some scuttlebutt that the July 3rd date was some kind of intentional date. It just fell down that day, but there's really the city hasn't seen a plan because the original applicant didn't withdraw, but just didn't submit more plans, and it's being owned by someone else now. So Susan, if you want to come up to this microphone and just address that Druid Hill is the old church. What's the name of that church? Is it?
Chapel, Atlantic Chapel.
Okay. She can tell you all about that.
Hi.
The actual property is at 1475 North Druid Hills Road. It is a church site. The original applicant was Brookhaven Homes, and they were going through the public hearing process, and the purchase of the property contract evaporated, and the church was able to secure an additional person who was interested in purchasing the property. So a deferral was requested by the Planning Commission, which will also be considered by the Mayor and Council at their next meeting. And if that deferral is granted, then the Planning Commission hearing date would be July 3rd in their recommending body. And their recommendation would then go to the Mayor and Council. But we currently do not have a revised plan. If the deferral is granted, the revised plan would be submitted on May 31st. And then the staff would write a report. We would then re-advertise for public hearing. We would post a new sign on the property, and we would send new notices to the neighbors that are adjacent to the property. So if the deferral is granted, a new plan will be submitted, of which we haven't seen, and we will create a new report.
Yeah, and then also just important for you is that the new developer or the attorney for the developer is hosting a meeting on May 20th. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, I thought that I'd heard it.
That is correct. It's a small meeting.
It's a small meeting.
It's not a public meeting.
It's not a okay. All right. Well, there's that. And so I'll also understand this. There's been some apprehension about this process because it's our first case. And the planning commission is an advisory commission. That means they look at the facts and they take from the neighborhoods and from the developer and go apply the law and make a recommendation to the city council. So once the planning commission makes the recommendation, then it goes before us who are accountable to you, the voter. So you'll have a chance at another time, once they get the recommendation, whether if you like the recommendation the planning commission gives or not, then you'll have a chance to come speak to us, give your public input at our council meeting, which would be, I guess, a month later or so. And you can talk to us and email us. And
The planning committee has already given approval?
no, there's been no approval because there's no plan, because the original property buyer backed out. So there's now a new property buyer. And once that new property buyer comes up with a plan, and from what I understand they're having a meeting with the neighborhoods, then they'll submit a plan to the city. The city will get it, like Ms. Cannon said, and then the community development and the planning commission will review that. The staff will give recommendations to the planning commission. The planning commission makes a recommendation, then it comes to us, which will be sometime later in the summer, I would assume. Sometime after July 3rd.
Correct.
Right.
Can I make some other comments?
Sure.
If that's the case, there's been no approval, and I don't know what the demolition is all about that's been going on that property.
Right.
There has been no demolition permit issued. There has been no request for demolition. The backhoe that was on the property was there. They were doing some due diligence, environmental phase 1 work to test the soil. And that was the purpose of the bulldozer being out there. And that was from the potential new purchaser.
So they weren't tearing down buildings? Have you
No.
seen buildings go down?
No, I just heard
So doing soil samples up, is what you're saying, right?
Right, there was a backhoe there. They did do some phase 1 environmental review, and that was the extent of it. I did send a land development inspector out there the next morning because they did leave some debris behind that needed to be cleaned up, but that was the purpose of the backhoe. There was no demolition.
Joe, that's your district, correct? Is Ms. Bates? Bates, did you have a comment about it real quick?
Well, I simply, I want to convey the message that I'm an open door. I certainly want to hear from all the citizens and particularly affected property owners about what your position is. I welcome those emails, phone calls are fine too. I want you to know that your message will be heard more clearly than it has ever been heard in the past. We have a very small city government administration, and we have a small elected body. So I welcome those statements, and I think that there is a perception, because we're a new city, about the process that we have to go through. And just to reiterate what J. Max said about, you really have a 3-step process here. You've got submission of plans, goes to planning commission. They give the recommendation to the planning committee, citizen volunteers, then they give their recommendation to the city council, the mayor, and then we vote. So all of those 3 steps have to be met for a project. Was that just multi-unit? That's all zoning.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about the zoning is on the board that they put up on the property is that they were going to change the zoning from a residential suburban to what? I don't know. But they're talking about, instead of having it 4 units per acre, they're now at 8 units per acre. How did that happen? I mean,
People can request any kind of rezoning they want. It's just a matter if it's going to be allowed. So if they put that they're putting on there what they're trying to do, then it gets considered by the community, by the city council, and by the planning commission. So it's not, just because it's out there doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. That's what they might be asking for, but we don't know if they're going to get that or not. Obviously with input from the citizens and from once the developer gets some plans. See, right now we're in the stage of somebody's putting a contract on a house, and so the people who are trying to buy it are doing their due diligence. Like you'd have surveys and things of that nature. That's why you saw the backhoe. That's what's going on right now. There's nothing, no land disturbance permit has been issued, doing testing. Once they get their due diligence done, then they'll have the plan. Then the plan is submitted to the city. The planning commission reviews it with the staff recommendations, and the planning commission makes a recommendation to us, and then we'll make the decision based on what we hear from the community, what the law is, and how it's going to benefit or negatively affect the community. So it could be a positive, whatever they could propose one mansion in the future. We don't know because we don't have a new plan yet.
And I do want to add one more thing that maybe Marie or Susan, y'all want to explain this more, but we at a council meeting had a discussion about the fact that when we see multi-unit developments proposed in the city of Brookhaven, we want to ensure that the citizens hear what the proposed development is in a public hearing before we even have plans submitted to the city, so that all the citizens are aware of what's going on. And the intent of that is to work out those issues that the affected property owners in the neighborhoods are going to find. So maybe y'all can explain a little bit more about that process, because formally, when it's submitted, I'm not sure at what point we determine if that meeting's happened. And then even if there are changes, when we go back and make sure that there's another hearing to let the public know about it.
Yeah, nothing's going to sneak by without you knowing about it, not having time for you to comment about it and see what's going to be the plan is.
So that's one of my main concerns.
That's not going to happen.
And it was turned down by the Cobb County twice, that same property. All of a sudden, within 120 days, we're building apartments there. And go, whoa.
Yeah, I don't think it was apartments, but that's just the nature of it. That's our first case, and that we're a new city, and that's what they're proposing. So we'll look at it just like anybody else will look at it, but we're going to make sure we make a good and thorough decision. And you'll have input into that decision, and all the neighbors will as well.
Thank you.
So I know there's a lot of apprehension about that, but nothing's happened yet. There's been no plan submitted to Susan or to the city. And so we'll cross all those bridges when we get to them. You'll have plenty of chance to have your input. And we encourage your input as well.
Jim Mallory, 2280 Matthew Street, Brookhaven. It's concerning development too. Tree ordinance. Is there a tree ordinance, or are we following one in the cab? Because what it was over on Dresden Drive, they literally raped a piece of land, built more apartments. And, I talked to my city council person, he said it was not approved by Brookhaven, it was approved by DeKalb County. But that site, and I sent y'all an email of it, is been totally stripped, naked. It's, Brookhaven is a place of trees, and there's not a tree left. And I'd like to know, if we have a tree ordinance, because it's real sad to see what happened to that site. I don't know if any of you have even driven by it.
Yeah, we do have a tree ordinance we carry over from DeKalb County, but Jim, do you want to speak to that, that development? You want to take that one on? It was all Jim's responsibility. He let it happen. But that was approved by DeKalb County. I know that for a fact.
There is a tree ordinance in place. It does allow the removal of trees. However, it also requires the replacement of those trees that are taken down. We can look out the window here and we see a lot of very uniform, mature trees, which tells me that when this playground was built in 1955, it was stripped clear, the pollen from the trees. It's affecting my voice. So trees will come back, but they will be required to plant 15 density units per acre for that, which is amazing. But they also, if there are any specimen trees that were larger than a certain diameter, 24 inches for a pine, 30 inches for a hardwood, they'll be required to compensate with additional trees. So yes, they were taken down.
So I've got to make sure next time I see development, I count the trees first, right?
That's true, yeah.
Okay, I will.
And the tree ordinance, and again, it does allow them, property rights is the thing that we have to respect. So they can take the trees down, but they also have to replace them with a set number after the development is. And if they don't have enough room on site, they also can put those trees in parks. And I know Ronnie and I have spent a lot of weekends watering trees up here at Ashland Park, because when they cut down trees on Dresden Drive and there in the restaurants in Brookhaven, they had to replace a certain number of trees. They didn't have enough room on site to replace the trees, so we ended up with 8 or 10 nice oak trees in Ashford Park up here as a result of that.
Well, if they develop a place up on North Druid Hills, believe me, I'll count the trees and I'll call you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a picture. Yeah.
Oh, I will.
Linda Gartland, followed by Gerald Schultz.
Who was the first one?
Linda Gartland.
Ms. Gartland?
We have communicated via email.
Yes.
And so it's nice to see you. And just want to thank you for your responsiveness, which has been incredible. And I just want to thank you all for all the work you've done in the first 120 days, because you've gotten a lot accomplished. So I am very fortunate in that Ron already has asked a lot of the questions I had, so I don't want to repeat that. But I would like to feel comfortable that we have, as citizens, some type of access to zoning folks at the city level, so as we have questions and concerns, we can go to the right person and feel like those are being heard. And would that be Susan, or who is it that we should be getting to.
Let me speak to that just for a second, because there's been some back and forth with folks who wanted to have staff come to their homeowners association meetings and things of that nature to get input. That's really not appropriate for staff to be going to homeowners association meetings. But what we've talked about is having staff available at City Hall for any homeowner associations or individuals from homeowner associations to make appointments to come see staff. So yes, Susan will be available for that at City Hall, and her staff will be too. So all you have to do is call City Hall, 404-637-0500. Say, I'd like to speak to Susan Cannon or her assistant, and they will make time to hear. And if you're going to have a meeting, try to have a couple of people so she doesn't have individual, because she's got a lot of work to do. But we want to. Our staff is going to be open and available to the public. Your question, yes, we are going to be available to have staff meet with you and talk to you about your concerns.
Okay, good, because we know the developers are obviously having to talk with you, and so we just want to feel like we've had our 2 cents as well.
Well, they haven't talked to, like Susan said, they don't have a plan yet, and that's part of we have to make sure we're careful in that we can't go to a meeting hosted by a developer. We can't have elected officials or staff go to a meeting hosted by a developer to give his version of what he wants to do. Just like we can't go to a homeowners association meeting to get just their version, because that's when lawsuits happen. People say, "Oh, you listened to them and went to their meeting, and you didn't do the same for us." So if we have it at staff, where the staff controls kind of the agenda, and you can ask all the questions you want, it's a lot more clean, and we can make sure that we don't get in trouble with lawsuits or bias or perceived bias.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
but we do want to make sure you feel comfortable coming to City Hall anytime. Every Monday, pretty much every Monday, you can come and meet with me. Mondays with the mayor. Just call the clerk and set up a time. I met 3 or 4 people today. So our city is an open door, and we want to make sure people understand what's going on. And please ask as many questions as you want when you come to City Hall, and ask them at the town halls.
Great,
All
thanks.
right, thank you.
Gerald Polk?
Mr. Polk?
Gerald Polk?
That's me. Gerald Polk. I live at 2250 Matthews Street. First of all, I want to congratulate you also for all the fine work you've done the first 120 days and the progress on hiring a police chief, and that's wonderful news. And it sounds like we're going to get some real community involvement with law enforcement. That's great. A lot of my questions have been answered, but I do just want to reiterate and voice my concerns regarding that church property redevelopment. Not against development in any way, shape, or form, but just to say a few things that I think were not said, so I don't repeat something that I was a little concerned initially with what I read in the original petition for rezoning from Brookhaven Homes. I know that's been withdrawn, but that is an example. Brookhaven, yeah, Brookhaven Homes. I was, in my opinion, and I'm not an architect or a land developer, but I thought there was a lack of substance, there was a lack of data, lack of analysis, runoff, traffic, et cetera, et cetera. And it seemed that there was a recommendation to approve the petition to a rezoning designation, RM75, I think it was, that was outside the stated comprehensive land use designation of suburban. So there was a, I see you nodding your head, that was my understanding of reading, and there was a one-sentence clarification in the petition that said we would have to change that suburban designation, but there was nothing as to what that would be changed to. Anyway, this is, it's just, in general, it's a concern about the process. A lot of my questions have been answered, and in a way, I'm reassured to hear the process and hear the safeguards, if you will, and the opportunities for our input. So I'm just one more voice saying I'm watching, and I care about what happens with that land, and I certainly have my opinions about what I would like to see, but mostly I want to see a thoughtful, good development that's going to be good for our neighborhood and for the city of Brookhaven. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate those words, because I think that's what permeates all we believe up here too. So thank you for that. And again, I understand your apprehension. This is a new city. You don't really know us too well yet. We're going to get to know each other a lot better over the next couple of years. I can assure you our planning commission are earnest. They are very, very engaged, and they want to make sure they make the right decisions. They're just regular folks, and that was part of my plan when I was making appointments. I wanted to have folks from all parts of the city. There are people on the planning commission that live, just around that area, and they're regular citizens, they're your neighbors, and that's part of what local control is that you can point to someone, your city council representative, your planning commission, you remember that you got to meet them in the grocery store, and you can hold them accountable that way too. So please do remain engaged, and if you have any questions about anything that you're worried about, just email us or call us or come by and let us know. Well, thank you, Mr. Bates.
I want to follow up that I have specific sympathy for the people who live on Matthews Street. They've already gone through, I don't know if everybody else knows this, but they've already gone through Big Rich Atlanta and filming that was very disruptive to their street. Now they're being hit from the backside of the development. I went at the request of one of the homeowners over there at 11:30 one night just to see this, to have a showdown with the Big Rich Atlanta production crew that had already left. But you've got people up here who care about your voices, and I just think it's important to communicate that we're there to represent your voices as elected officials. So if we're not doing a good job of that, I want to hear about that. So, but this is really our first rezoning. So I think that the process we have in place has multiple steps before anything is ever voted on. And the voting of any change will be done by your elected body. So just wanted to make that clear.
All right. Who's next? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Dr. Maggie Coleman, and I had two questions.
Sure.
But before I ask my questions, I wanted to thank Chief Yandora and Officer Gurley because they're going to be coming to our Discuss Neighborhood Watch meeting next week. And they were very, especially Chief Yandora was very responsive when we had some complaints about daytime break-ins in our immediate area around East Osborne Road. My two questions are really disconnected. One's just a really practical question. When you, at the corner of Camille Drive and Dresden, there's a row of parking spots to your right, and when that last spot is filled, you cannot see anything coming down Dresden to make a left. And me and every neighbor I've spoken to who drives out of there on a regular basis has had a near accident. So we'd really like that last spot blocked off.
So the car,
I don't know how that happens.
So the car's parked there, it blocks your complete.
Yeah, when that last spot is full, not the whole road, just that last spot, you cannot see anything coming from your right down Dresden. So if you want to make a left, it's like everybo's. So I didn't know who to ask. I know I had sent an email
Richard,
with a bunch of other things too.
Do you want to address that?
So,
If you can. This is Richard he's our Public Works Director.
Yes, and if you send an email, and I'll make a note of this particular one, but we can address any of those issues and work in, actually the way our ordinance are written, it's a combination of Public Works Director and the Chief of Police that work on these parking issues, where to apply no parking signs or where to allow parking spaces. And we can look at that one as well.
All right, thank you. And then the other question, I was watching the news one night at some point in the last 2 weeks, and my ears perked up because they said the town of Brookhaven was suing the Pink Pony. Now, I only know what the Pink Pony is because I used to work at Corporate Square. I've actually never been in the Pink Pony or the other topless bar. In fact, I don't drink, so it's not my, but the thing is, when I worked at corporate, I know I was in Corporate Square for years, and there was never any problems, and I just kind of wondered how that decision got made, since we're a new city and we've got a limited budget. I just wondered if that was the best use of our legal dollars. I just didn't understand that.
We haven't sued the Pink Pony.
Okay, so they were just wrong. I was so surprised.
You got it correct. We have not sued the Pink Pony.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on the first question, just to give a little bit more information about it. I agree that Dresden Drive is a real safety issue. There's a yogurt place there that's across the street from some potential developments that ultimately I know will be developed, and we've got parallel parking, and I just envision a little kid going in between those cars trying to cross, and you've got people zooming over to get up 85 to Gwinnett. It's an issue that we will address in the comprehensive plan that Marie mentioned. So coming up with a good strategy for the city, overall city, but in particular safety areas like that are
Well, I mean, you know, I know those apartments were approved by DeKalb County, but I mean, the bottom line is now, in fact, this evening when I turned on to Dresden from Peachtree at about 6:15, it took me almost 15 minutes to get the 3 blocks over to turn so I could get onto East Osborne. And not one apartment's rented yet. So, but I thought I'd raise that another time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Coleman.
Frank McCluskey,
Frank McCluskey.
followed by Nicholas.
Come on down. There he goes.
Thank you all for taking on this task of starting up a new city. I've been associated with now the city of Brookhaven since December of 1959. So I attended OLA, Marist, Georgia Tech. Have lived, parents have lived in this city since then. So I really am giving you all a wide berth to understand that starting up something is not going to be easy. I know there will be some bumps along the way, and hopefully you have learned from what some of the other cities have done or have not done to ensure that you don't hit too many big bumps. But again, I know y'all are going to do everything you can to make this a great start. Going back to the development on the Druid Hills, part of feedback, part of town hall meetings is feedback both ways. So I think tonight, because we are just starting, we're hearing a lot one-way feedback. I just want to add another dimension. I was at a meeting at the church when the Brookhaven development made their presentation. And I just want to give you a flavor that there is really a sense of anxiousness, concern. So do not underestimate how strongly the residents feel about what was being proposed. And this idea of going to an R75 and putting that kind of density at the price points that were being recommended, that many felt, first of all, couldn't legally be done. Secondly, was undercutting and really degrading the surrounding neighborhoods for a lot of other reasons. And Bates and Susan, I'm the one who's written those nice notes. But I think the concern is that what I thought the staff, even though there was a deferral, the staff had approved the RM75 with the specifications that they listed. In the meeting at the church, there was a strong message to developers, and so this is to whoever's going to be doing this. It's going to be real important before anybody gets too far down the road to get a lot of input from those neighborhoods, to get a real clear understanding that we're not looking for high density at 400,000 price points, because I think that's undervaluing the real importance of that property to the city of Brookhaven. And if someone, whoever that developer is going to be, if they don't really work well with the neighborhoods before they start making formal presentations, it's really interesting. The first project out of the chute is something like this, because it really causes you to be thoughtful about how you want to respond. You're going to set a tone for so many other projects, but you're also going to set a tone of, are you listening to the community? And I will tell you, the community is not happy with what's happening, and if they feel that someone is not getting their input and they come back with anything that's even close to the density that they have right now, Mayor, you got a mess on your hands. So I just want to give you that feedback. The second thing, Mayor, I mentioned this to you when we're at Oglethorpe. It's going to be real important to have quality development in Buckhead, city of Brookhaven. But I hope that we maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods because of the traffic patterns that either we currently have today
or that we will have in the future, because there's a lot of cars. I'm in Brookhaven Heights, so there's a lot of traffic up and down those streets that at times becomes dangerous. I think, police chief, if you want to make your revenue budgets, all you got to do is just get some officers and you can get people running stop signs, traffic lights in Brookhaven Heights alone. But I really think that we've got to make sure that we protect the integrity of all the residential neighborhoods and make these neighborhoods that if someone's going to come through the neighborhood, they're going to stop at stop signs, they're going to go to the speed limit, and if not, someone's going to fine them. So I just want to give you that feedback, and I really do wish you all the best of luck.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Ronnie Mayor. Ronnie Mayor, you have 35 seconds.
I got 8 questions.
Right now.
Ronnie Mayer, and I'm the president of the Ashford Park Homeowners Association. I appreciate all y'all here this evening. We had a small problem this morning on Reading Road with a tree with Georgia Power. I want to thank Mr. Iyer. Jim Iyer came out personally. Georgia Power knew it was a problem. They even hired a DeKalb officer to be there because they destroyed about 2 of our trees. It means a lot to the residents on Reading. I want to just say thank you. I've got a few issues here. Have we heard anything? I don't know if it's to the chief I'm gonna ask or to the mayor at the last town hall. I asked about, you know, if we're gonna be paying DeKalb County what we're supposed to be paying them per month. Did y'all heard from anything? If we're gonna, even between really now and the end of the summer, or we're gonna get the use of the motorcycle officers down here on Peachtree, write some citations for us to bring up some revenue, because that's our revenue. If we are paying out $550, I'd like to get at least maybe 200 grand back every month through that, if possible. And I don't know.
That IGA is still under negotiation.
Okay. All right, let's see. And whose idea was it to try to privatize the garbage service? If it's not broke, don't change it.
Real quick, hold on before we get ready. Nobody had an idea to privatize our garbage service. Councilman Gebbia was interested in getting a pilot program to see if that would be feasible at some point in the future, but there's been no plan to privatize our garbage service. Nobody's done anything yet.
Okay, because right now, DeKalb County, the garbage service, sanitation has a crew with the lawnmowers, and I'm pretty sure still they're gonna cut Peachtree Road for us and a few other areas. I'm gonna need y'all's help. We're gonna plant trees from the Waffle House all the way up to Osborne Road, and DeKalb is applying for a permit for 2 water boxes, and we're getting a little flag from the state on these permits. And I don't know who would help me from the city, but I'm gonna need I've got one more phone call I'm gonna make, and if I need y'all's help, I just need to know who I need to ask for. Okay, and
You would ask for on, I guess, Public Works or Susan Cannon, one of the two, or Community Development.
Public Works.
Public Works, okay, Public Works. Richard Meehan.
Okay, and we have a big area here in Brookhaven. Are we gonna have an extra, like a landscaping crew on this summer just for the odd intersections, whether it's Johnson's Ferry, there's, you know, just grass, Claremont, Dresden, Druid Hills, Roxborough.
Richard, do you want to address those right-of-way maintenance issues real quick?
Yes.
Don't grab that mic from Ronnie now.
The answer to Mr. Mayor's question is yes, we will have an extra crew. Probably we're trying to get them started this week, actually addressing some of those areas in Ashford Park and also along, especially Johnson's Ferry, Ashford Dunwoody Road, the main roads that go through the city, where there are right-of-ways that are not really frontage of anybody's property that aren't being maintained.
Thank you very much. And y'all already know this weekend that we're gonna have, what is it, the 8th annual Brookhaven Bowl or the 9th? 8th annual? 8th annual. We hope we get all y'all's support and see all your happy faces.
I'd love to be there, Ronnie, but this is for my job, I'm as a lawyer, I've never had to travel. So this week is my first official trip as a mayor. I'm going to Houston with the Atlanta Regional Commission. They're paying for it. It's not, the city's not paying for it, but it's apparently a big deal and I have to be there, so I won't be there at the Bolt because I got this trip, the Link trip.
I've had a lot of questions from me. A lot of people call me, want to know why we didn't get an extra lane on Dresden Drive from those apartment complexes near the fire station. Do we have an answer to that or no?
They are providing a turn lane from Apple Valley to Fernwood that'll connect with the turn lane that continues on down to Camille.
Perfect.
And Ron, real quick, I want to pick up on Councilman Gebbia's interest in the sanitation program. Anything that you heard about privatizing sanitation or whatnot, DeKalb County approached the city about changing the delivery time, taking a delivery day away, or raising the sanitation rates. So what Councilman Gebbia did, and I applaud him for doing it, was trying to make, kids shop out there, see what kind of prices we could get. Because if there was something where they were going to raise our rates and cut back service, or just cut back service and keep us at the same rate, he was doing some due diligence to see if there was a way we could get a better deal if it came to that. So, I applaud him for doing that because we always want to be thinking ahead. In 3 years, who knows what the state of DeKalb Sanitation Department will be. But right now, it's doing a pretty good job, but they're talking about changing it. So Councilman Gebbia was doing a good thing in making sure we had our bases covered if something did happen.
We've got to have that vision, the vision. One other thing, if you're going to see the DOT, they're building the ramps from 85 south to 400 north, and vice versa from 400 south to 85 north. When they get through with these ramps, you should see a little less traffic off Dresden Drive, because if you live up in Gwinnett County and you can run down 85 to 400 north, you can hit the Buckhead Loop in half a second instead of having to come 85 to Shallowford, to Shanley Tucker, to Dresden, to Peachtree. So you should see when all those ramps up, a little less traffic there.
All right, well, thank you.
I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. All right.
Richard Hood.
What was that last name again? Hood, Mr. Hood.
Richard Hood. I live on Craven Ridge Drive. I don't have a question, but I have an observation. Last weekend, I had my first contact with the city of Brookhaven. A tree fell down from my front yard into the roadway, and it totally blocked. Even pedestrians couldn't get through. This was on a Sunday morning about 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know who to call, but my neighbors knew, and a lot of them apparently called the City of Brookhaven Public Works Department. They couldn't come right away because there were downed power lines and there was escaping gas in my front yard. It was a dangerous situation. They had to wait until that was taken care of before they could take care of that tree. As soon as it was clear that there was no more escaping gas and electric power lines being dangerous for people, they sent a crew out there, our Public Works Department, Brookhaven Public Works Department sent a crew out there. What an amazing bunch of guys. They were fantastic, working their heads off to get that tree moved out of there in the rain, in the dark, and cold. It was cold out there, lousy weather, but they all had one purpose, to get that tree out. When two of the men left with the debris in the truck to wherever they were going to dispose of it, I don't know. They left one man there to dispose of it. What do you think he did? Did he get in his truck and take a nap, or listen to his electronic machines? No. He was out middle of the street all of that time, sweeping up every twig and every leaf like it was his own kitchen floor. I've taken enough of your time, but you did a marvelous job. Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. One other comment. I am pleased as all get out at what I see here tonight. I wasn't for the city of Atlanta to begin with, the city of Brookhaven to begin with, but by gollies, I think we're in very, very, very good hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you to Low Engineers and Richard Meehan. We appreciate those comments. I've been here and I've been getting emails similar to that about other things that the Public Works Department has been doing. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have us a city, because they're accountable to us and they're accountable to you. And they do their job because they have a contract with us that says they do their job. And if they don't, we find someone else. But it seems like Low wants to keep their contract. So they're doing a very good job, and we're getting a lot of good positive response from them. And all our departments, we want all our departments to be lauded that way. And we're working through some issues. We're gonna make sure we get everything going in the right direction, but we'd like to hear from you, good and bad. We appreciate the nice comments you made there, sir. Thank you.
Sue Binkert.
Ms. Binkert, double teaming me on the park stuff tonight.
No, it's actually not. Well, one is sort of related. Sue Binkert, and I'm on LJ in District 3. My first question is more of an observation so that you're aware of. I go down Beaufort Highway almost every day. And I really wanted medians so that the individuals would not be targets as they currently have been. But the design of the medians, and I know it's not us, but if there is a way to communicate to whomever is designed those,
The DOT.
I figured that out. But if there's any additional input that can be made before they're all finished, I lived there 6 years, and I've had like 3 very, very close accidents within the last, since they started them, because they have not designed them for the individuals to have enough access to get from the 3 lanes into the, what used to be that middle lane, going either way, so people are sticking out into the other lane. So it's just accidents ready to happen. And it's simply a design issue in numerous spots. Second to that.
Marie, would you contact with the DOT on that issue, see what the design issue is, and maybe we can.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, cars are sticking up as they can't turn in, and unusual perception of, again, traveling that particular highway a lot, is that where the residents usually cross, they're not putting medians. So there's a disconnect between the design and where people actually, from the MARTAs, cross, and that's not where their medians are. So just FYI.
You're saying the design, maybe somebody didn't sit out and watch what the patterns were before they built them?
Yes, yeah. It would be like, okay, every 100 feet, there goes another one, there goes another one, without any relationship to what process really needs to happen.
All right.
So, and the second one, it actually does sort of relate to a park. It is the Briarwood Park, which is phenomenal with the new equipment, which brings more people, which brings more traffic congestion, which brings more children and people walking, and cars are not used to that additional traffic, so more signage, more something, I don't, maybe in time, but even before we own the parks, to be able to work with DeKalb County to put more safety measures up there.
Children crossing, things like that, maybe a crosswalk or something?
Yes, some slow down, playground area ahead, some way, because cars are just used to zipping past there because there was nothing there before. And just the volume of individuals is causing some traffic
Thanks to
issues.
Chad Bowles and all that work he's doing.
Oh, absolutely, it's phenomenal.
So Marie and Richard, if y'all make a note of that, Richard's got a comment.
comment on the and we have talked to DOT about this issue. Understand, and I have seen the full plans, what is out there right now is not the final plan. There's still a lot more construction that is to be done. And one of the things to be done is to extend those medians all the way to the intersection so that cars cannot turn where they're turning now. And I've let them know it's a temporary thing during the construction. We've let them know that they have a safety problem. They haven't gotten back with us as what they're going to do with it. But I have seen the plans. All the medians go all the way to the intersections where the traffic signals are. So all the U-turns will be controlled at the traffic signals. There'll be a full storage lane for those U-turns.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say a neighbor had a particular issue with noise, and we were able to contact Raul Newman, and he called me back within 48 hours. It was phenomenal. And we're working with, well, part of code compliance, but also a noise issue. So thank you again for all your help. It's
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Binger. And thank you for your service to Brookhaven as well. All right, anything else? We got more? Uh-oh.
Clayton Conroe, Park Creek Lane. Thanks everyone for being here. Lieutenant, you mentioned that we were going to be doing some neighborhood watches, and there are several neighborhood watches, like on my street, that exist with DeKalb County. I just want to know if those will roll over to Brookhaven, and it will, who needs to contact who regarding that? Thank you.
Yes, that is part of what we'll be doing. We'll be taking over the neighborhood watch programs from DeKalb County so that we are aware of what issues the individual neighborhoods have. We will be providing a police service once we stand up as a police department. I'll be your contact. My email address is very simple. It's my first and last name, Brandon.Gurley, Gurley, at brookhavengA.gov. Send me an email. We'll set up meetings just like I have with Dr. Coleman. We're setting up neighborhood watch meetings to discuss how the neighborhood would go about setting up a program like this and working with us even before we stand up as a police agency. So we're trying to get on the ball and get ahead of the game on those issues. But to answer your question, we will be providing that service or working with you for those neighborhood watch issues.
Great.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Next.
That's all of our comments.
All right, well, hold on a minute. Wait. 1 second. We got to make sure nobody else wants to do one. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Anybody? Right back here? Oh, Mr. Ma'am, okay.
I'm Cheryl Atkins. I live at 1647 Harts Mill Road. I had a question about how 911 will work once we switch over to a local police department, if there's any change to that. And I also had a general question about how much police presence we'll have for traffic control, speeding, things like that, because we have a problem with that in Harts Mill.
Sure, right now we're negotiating, there's two choices we have. It's either with DeKalb County, as we currently have for 911 Center, or ChadCom. Right now we're probably leaning towards DeKalb County because they're familiar with the streets and the setup and everything else that we have. So you still call 911, you're still going to get the same response as far as communications. As far as police presence, I think you're going to see a lot more police presence. We're going to have a lot more officers on the street. And what we're trying to impress upon the people is that whereas DeKalb County might have 4 or 7, I'm not sure how many officers they actually have patrolling Brookhaven. If there's a serious call outside the city limits of Brookhaven, they're naturally going to go to it. Whereas our department, when we have a call, we're not going to leave the city limits. So you're always going to have a certain number of officers, and it generally be at least 7 to 11 or 12 officers on the street in the city limits. And we're going to try to, as I mentioned before, we're going to try to put those officers in strategic places so that we can respond quicker and provide the visibility in the areas that need the visibility and the problems.
So can you give me a little information about how it works from police officers responding to calls, which I know would be more important, versus a general patrolling of neighborhoods and, monitoring for speed and things like that?
Sure, the officers are going to be assigned to special areas that we're still in the process of determining by calls for service that DeKalb County has right now. So there'll be officers assigned to these general areas, and it's there for a quick response, basically. So you'll see more.
Okay, and I also want to compliment Richard. I called him about my mailbox being thrown 40 feet across my front yard when somebody was speeding down my road and hit it and left the scene. So, yeah, he was very responsive again. I sent him an email and he called me the next day and talked about the concerns with Harts Mill Road and how it will be on the top of the list to address. So I just wanted to recognize him for that.
Thank you very much. Richard, do you live in the city of Brookhaven?
No.
So you can't run for mayor? Okay. I'll be sure. Get that squared away. Next question.
Kim Gercha, Hillsdale Neighborhood, 1955 Fairway Circle, home of the best ribs in Brookhaven. So I had a couple of quick comments. First of all, welcome Chief, Deputy Chief, and other recent hires of the city. I mostly was inspired to speak on extemporaneously here by Mr. Hood. Are you still here? I just wanted to say thank you for being so positive and taking the time to say something positive. Mostly we, including myself, come to this microphone to complain. So thank you for that. I wanted to echo that. I've had a great experience with Public Works, responsiveness, acknowledging reports, and acting on them. In fact, as I cruise around on foot or by vehicle, they're taking them off almost as fast as we can report them. And it's clear there's some thought put into it in terms of priority. So I wanted to thank the city for that leadership and the effectiveness of Public Works. I also wanted to quickly do something a little out of order here. I want to recognize two of my neighbors right here, Jim and Ray, Fairway Circle. These gentlemen, I'm doing this because I want people to realize what a great city and what a great community we have. These two gentlemen have been driving by my home on a weekly basis, dropping off books for Woodward Elementary School. The number, have you kept track? Oh, it's hundreds. And this week they're giving them out. So I just wanted to say thank you, Jim and Ray. You're great citizens of the city. I have a quick comment about the planning. I see a lot of folks, my neighbors from Heights, live across the street. I have a property here in Ashford Park. I share all of your concerns about what may be a precedent-setting land use application that we're yet to see, right? But the comments were not clear. RM75 is what was in the original application. And so it is a significant change from the existing, not only the land, but the adjacent neighborhoods, but I would say even beyond Heights. And here's why. It has to do with the connectivity of North Druid Hills. I walk it every morning to Woodward Elementary, and the traffic, when there's not congestion, it's 10, 15, 20 miles over the speed limit during walk to school. When there is congestion, it backs up from the station over here at Martin, all the way to Northwood Valley Way at the high school. That's not an exaggeration. Folks in Heights, y'all second that? So it's really, the key thing will be the traffic load on North Druid Hills. What happens interior to the property, we have a nice pretty plan. But we already have an issue on North Druid Hills. And as a citizen, I would encourage all the planners involved and the city leadership to look at not only the plan, but put an emphasis on where does it fit into the vision for the city? And who is responsible for that vision? And I'm going to reserve my time for Mr. Mayor and Mr. Mayor. Thank you for all you're doing.
Kim,
Y'all are doing a great job.
Don't try to sneak around because Kim, you're talking about other people with community service. We appreciate that, but Kim is doing a wonderful job with the Cross Keys Foundation. He hosted several forums about the city, after the city. He's moderated the forums we had at Cross Keys. He's been at Woodward Elementary. He's helping those schools in a way that y'all probably don't realize. But you're a key part to the improvements that are going on at Cross Keys, and the level of community involvement there is being driven by you, and we appreciate your community service too, Kim. So let's have a hand for Kim. Anybody else before Ronnie? So we got Karen wants to make another comment. I think she had something reserved at the end, a little bit, and then Ronnie. So want to do ladies first, Ronnie? Sure. All right, Karen.
Do Ronnie first.
Okay, do Ronnie.
And yes, I do live in the city limits, but it'd be funny hearing Mayor, wouldn't it? Yeah. All right. I've had a lot of people at Cherokee Plaza. They have a big problem with the homeless people. The city of Chamblee has a great urban camping law. They just don't use it, but it's a great urban camping. There's a group of about 4 guys who walk every morning from Cherokee Plaza to town Brookhaven. Somebody up there is feeding them. Where the Hastings is, if you'll drive closely next to their parking lot, you'll see a sheet of plywood there. Right on the other side of the plywood, there's 3 guys sleeping. In the old office where Keller Williams used to be on the rear steps, there's 3 guys sleep there every night. The guy that owns the liquor store, the sub-salad shop, they complain that they urinate on the side, and it's got to be a real problem. And I'm sorry that
Now, listen, I've heard from the residents when I went door to door about it behind their house, and I've heard from those business owners as well. We need to find a way to contact the Atlanta Homeless Shelter or an organization that services homeless folks, because you said you got somebody coming down there to feed them. I know that might be a little bit of misplaced altruism, because there are causes of trouble with some of the residents and business around there. But we want to try to find a place for those folks to go, and we'll figure out something, Ronnie, because that's a concern of a lot.
Well, the railroad officers have some kind of a federal law that gives them more power than our police officers. And years ago, we had a sweep. We took the MARTA officers, the railroad officers, Chamblee, Doraville, DeKalb County, and we went from the city of Atlanta line all the way to Chamblee, and we busted up 26 houses that they were sleeping on the railroad. And that's just a thought, because the railroad police had more, they had a federal law that you were on federal property, and so it wasn't really us, all of us were sort of helping. It was just.
Chief, do you have any comment on that, or have you dealt with that situation before with aid groups to try to facilitate, them going to another place or a shelter of some sort?
When I was in College Park, we worked with Atlanta Airport. They set up some homeless shelters or whatever. As far as in College Park, a lot of our homeless people there ended up setting up basic campsites underneath viaducts along I-85 and the expressway there. And basically what we had to do every year was go out and clean them up. Generally, they weren't there when we cleaned it up. So.
Good.
But it is an issue, and we do have to, displace them somewhere else.
And I've just got a little short story too. Way back when, in 1974, when I graduated Cross Keys High School, I bought a house off the Tryon Road. And here I was.
Been buying them ever since.
Oh yeah, and I was just a single guy with 3 crazy wild roommates, and there was Mr. Hood and his lovely bride that we lost a year or so ago, and that was my mentor. He showed me how to go house to house, knocking on doors, handing out little flyers, and becoming who me, Jim Iron, and a lot more of us are today. So I just want to applaud Mr. Hood, because he was doing it in the 70s. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. All right, Karen, your turn.
I'll just be quick. I'll be quick. But I do have 2 quick questions. There was a rumor
That we were asked by DeKalb County to pay $35,000 a month for them to continue with our park maintenance. Is that true or not? Are we doing that?
No, we are not doing that. However, we are still negotiating the intergovernmental agreement with them. The city has not paid anything, nor has the city agreed to do anything. Later this week, I will be meeting with the county manager specifically to talk about the parks, as well as some other services in the city.
So if that happens, will it be communicated so we could expect better service from them than
Well,
what
that's
we're getting?
whatever the city would pay, we would expect.
Okay.
A specific level of service of what we could
And a
expect and what would be
suggestion,
predictable.
sorry. A suggestion would be to come out to the Friends groups and let us sort of help you with that, police it until you get a parks organization.
Well, we would appreciate that. And let me just mention too on just how that process works. On any intergovernmental agreement, while that's negotiated through the city manager's office, it is approved by the mayor and council. So any kind of contract of that sort must go to them for that agreement.
Okay.
So we're still working on that. There have been a different assortment of numbers that have been bounced back and forth. The county has not reached the right number. That's why there's been no agreement.
Okay, well, if you wait much longer, you may not even need one at all.
Very good point.
I have a quick question about code enforcement. Does that come under the police department?
That's planning, community.
Oh, it's planning, okay. So,
They'll work together when necessary too.
okay, all right. And are there codes published yet, or do we look to DeKalb County for codes?
They're online. They're online.
At this point, we have adopted DeKalb County ordinances, and they are online through all of the past agendas as agenda items as to what we have adopted. We are starting to begin to look through those and tailor them more to Brookhaven and to reflect the desires of the mayor and council in their policy.
Okay, so they're on the Brookhaven website?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, that's it.
I'd like to add something about what you just mentioned about the ordinance changing. DeKalb County is going to be holding
Just state your name. Karen, real quick. The number, whatever the number ends up being, I think it should be 0 because we're already paying taxes for the parks.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Victor Herrick, I'm in Drew Valley. I'm one of the people appointed to be going to the meeting May 20th that DeKalb County is holding for the new ordinance rollout. And they're going to be coming up with a package, and Jim and I have talked about it, where they're going to be coming out with some new ordinance overlays that are going to affect all of DeKalb County. I don't know if Brookhaven is going to be adopting them or not, but there's going to be a meeting May 20th in Decatur that's going to be bringing all that up.
Thank you, Jim. You'll be at that, maybe? Oh, do we? Okay. Kim,
I said I wouldn't be back, but Karen's insightful observation and question sparked a memory. There was 2 active living initiatives that were within the footprint of Brookhaven under DeKalb's oversight. I was unable to make their meeting regarding the one here in the Beaufort Corridor and Johnson's Ferry, Ashford Dunwoody. When I contacted the staffer at the county about having an additional opportunity to work with them, their answer was, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but I'm an honest man, his response was, the commissioners are sort of discouraging us from continuing this. My question is, are we actively working with this active living initiative for the 2 sites in Brookhaven? It would be sort of a handoff question from the county to the city through, I presume, community development, but I don't know.
I don't think we've got anything about that, do you?
So I think it's just going to stall. So who should I speak to help them identify what was in flight?
I guess Susan or Marie and Susan.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, anything else? You sure nobody else has anything they want to shout something out, anything? All right. We're going to close the question and answer session down, and do any council members have anything they want to say? Briefly? Come on up.
I'd just like to add that you're going to see this council transition. Tonight, thanking us for time and what we've done putting this thing together. We're morphing into another segment now, and that segment's going to be planning a lot of the issues that did come up, and it's going to have real vision as we get the groundwork established, pretty much predicated upon finishing the hiring of what we've done, and I think Chief Yandor represents what we had as a final commitment. Part of this idea of planning comes around not thinking about just what we do as individual councilmen for our own districts. We always have to have a perception of what's best for Brookhaven, so sometimes that takes us out of the realm of how we think about what we're doing versus just being a district. And I remember when we got elected, I think it was Elaine Boyer was at the reception that we had, and she said the only advice that I can give you is to make sure that you get all the facts before you make a decision. So I just wanted to make a comment here in reference to taking a bigger vision on what it is that we do for the city. It is our fiduciary responsibility that the citizens are number one. We all positioned ourselves on a platform that said we're going to stay within budget and we're going to make sure that things happen and happen very constructively for the citizens. So when we do something like put out an RFP for something like trash, I just want to make a comment here. And Ronnie, thank you for your comments at our last meeting. I appreciate your input. You did offer some valuable ideas that we're incorporating. What we were looking to do is to potentially offset what was going to be a negative situation coming from DeKalb County and forcing us to make a decision one way or the other for less services at the same price or the same service at a higher price. And I thought it was incumbent upon us to protect the citizens to at least get all of the information and find out what is it we need to do as representatives for the people to make sure that we're providing the very best service. So we put together the RFP with the criteria that it had to be the same level of service at a lesser expense. And by lo and behold, interviewing a couple of these companies, it came to be, as a byproduct, they were prepared to not only offer what appeared to be, and this is now the RFP will prove this, service that would be of the same level, if not higher, at a lower price. They were prepared to even consider offering a franchise fee to the city for allowing them to do services. And one of my recommendations to Marie and to Susan was that if we follow through on it, and the facts are not in yet, we cannot make up our decision, we would potentially, hopefully, create a Keep Brookhaven Beautiful Fund, which would then be used to help keep trees that are planted all around town in good shape, and maybe even get more of them in as we go to beautify. And the sum on that was a sizable sum. So, I mean, there are a lot of potential incentives, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure, before we make decisions on what to do or what not to do, that we take the time to make sure we get all of the information. And I think that this is how we're pursuing representing you. It's not just my effort, it's being done day in, day out. Just come to any council meeting, you'll see we are all in harmony with what needs to be done, and we're driven by a purpose. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll quick comments. I know it's late. I just want to make two announcements. Just remember the Brookhaven Bolt. It's a great 5K run. It is this Saturday. Do you know the time? What time is the race?
It starts at 8 o'clock, but we need volunteers starting at 4 in the morning. If anybody's an early riser, you can contact me. Truly, they are looking for people to help set up, starting about 4 in the morning at Village Place over on Dresden. So this is the announcement so if you want to really get into the Brookhaven Bowl, come early and help with setup cones and all those things.
Come early or just stay out late from the night before.
Come ride with me in my tow truck. Over the past 5 years, that race has raised, I believe, over $120,000 for this school, Ashford Park Elementary. If we do nothing else as a community, it is not the purview of the city to dictate the school system, school function. But I do think as a citizen group, we now have a voice that's loud enough, I think, to be heard. And I would say, let's engage as a city to motivate what I think is a school system in flux right now. You've got a brand new board that's been in place a very short period of time. Let your DeKalb County School Board know what you think is the best for the citizens and the kids who live in Brookhaven. And I think there is an effort here at Charter, or at Ashford Park Elementary, to become a charter conversion school to allow more autonomy for the teachers and allow more flexibility with having the actual finances in the school. But I think that same autonomy and independence and allowing the principal to create a culture of success and teach to the needs of the kids at that school should be expanded throughout every school in DeKalb County, but in particular places like Woodward Elementary, where you've got a diverse population that needs a specialized program to really teach to the needs of the kids. So the Brookhaven Bolt is a race, but it's a race for the kids of our community. So please consider coming, but even if you don't run the race, consider what's going on with the schools here in DeKalb County and try to make an effort to improve.
Jim says, enough said, okay. And thank you, Bates. You know, we've been trying to facilitate some dialogue with the community about educational options, and Bates has been working with the Ashford Park and with the group is trying to get a charter school designation for Ashford Park. So thank you for doing that as well. I'd like to mention two more people before we go. Scott Robichaud is with the City Attorney's Office, so thank you to Scott. They're doing a good job for the City of Brookhaven, keeping us on the straight and narrow. And also Daniel Schulteis, he's my enemy at the City Hall because he's the IT guy.
Yeah.
So I'm always having to say, can you please open my email or can you tell me how to turn the computer on? And so they have these policies that I just don't get sometimes that they're necessary. He keeps telling me, but he's not my enemy. He's doing a great job. The InterDev is doing a wonderful job for the IT services for the City of Brookhaven. All right, with that, if there are no more questions, nothing jogged anybody's memory with anything that was said. We appreciate you coming. Please make sure you come to any of these that we have in the future. Call us at City Hall, call Marie, call me, come to Mondays with the mayor with me. Bother your city council members with any ideas or concerns you have. And we thank you for coming and engaging in a civic way with your new City of Brookhaven. So we appreciate it. We'll be back soon. Thank you.